Yes. So like from this place of the past influences the present, and like presently also we're creating our new past, which then can influence our future. It's very interesting when I'm able to even find these roots of where all this hypervigilance stems from. Where are these trust issues? Where is this stemming from? Even from like whether it's parental attachments, whether it's toxic relationships. It's very powerful, the change that I feel very privileged to be doing this type of bottom up therapy processing that I'm doing now.
On this episode of the CompassionWorks Way, we hear Jordan speak to Paul Martinez. Paul is dually licensed as a licensed professional counselor and licensed chemical dependency counselor. In 2019, Paul earned a Master's of Science in Counseling with an emphasis in clinical mental health from Texas A&M University at the Corpus Christi campus. He also holds a Bachelor's of Arts degree in psychology with a minor in communications, which he earned in 2017. He is EMDR trained through CompassionWorks, and he has 4 years of professional counseling experience working in nonprofit organizations, community agencies, IOP clinics, as well as in private practice. Paul's currently working to become an EMDR certified therapist to further his competence and expertise in treating various complex traumas. In this episode, Paul will share how EMDR completely changed his private practice. In his practice, Paul uses an integrative approach that utilizes the EMDR model, acceptance and commitment therapy, motivational interviewing, the dialectics of dialectical behavioral therapy, and a humanistic client-centered approach. You can learn more about our EMDR training by visiting our website, CompassionWorks.com. Now let's get into the episode. Welcome to the CompassionWorks Way, featuring insightful discussions, inspiring stories, and expert interviews on mental health, building your practice, and personal and professional growth. This show is brought to you by CompassionWorks, your hub for therapists, mental health professionals, and seekers of holistic healing. Your host, Jordan Schaefer, founder of CompassionWorks and licensed EMDR therapist. Together, we'll create a world where compassion and understanding transform lives. CompassionWorks, empowering therapists and transforming lives.
It's been very rewarding, very fulfilling, and doing a lot of work with trauma. Kind of when you kind of mentioned this about wanting to get some feedback on how EMDR has like impacted my practice, I would say definitely like confidence and like competence are like things that come up for me of feeling more confident and competent to work with a wide array of various presenting issues, various big T traumas, small T traumas, from anxiety and depression as well. And even had a client with a social phobia that been able to just see some like transformational change in quite a few of my clients as I'm going through even this certification process with to become EMDR certified as well.
So tell me this, what did you do before EMDR? How were you in school? Or are you a full-time therapist? What were you doing before you did it?
Yes, so before EMDR, I graduated 2019 with a master's in counseling, and then I was trying to find a job when the pandemic happened, and I was like, I chose to get my LCDC because I had my master's. I can waive the hours, so I was doing LCDC work, working towards my LPC licensure hours, and so I was using a lot of like acceptance and commitment therapy techniques and motivational interviewing and whatnot. But I was just not
What is that? Acceptance
commitment therapy?
Yeah, what is that?
So it's basically, it's a lot of like values based, has some like non-dual traits in it as well. And it's more so on not so much changing the content of our thoughts, but more so changing how we respond to them from a values-based place, from a mindfulness place. It's the things that I integrate. I'm very integrative, and today though, viewing everything from like the EMDR model with most of my clients who I do seem are good candidates for that type of therapy. But I'm very integrative though. But yes, acceptance and commitment therapy is more so on changing like our response, how we respond to these thoughts and feelings, kind of bringing to the forefront of our values and to find greater meaning in what we're doing. And that's kind of like the gist of it.
Okay. And so you had a private practice, is that right? LCDC work?
I was doing actually LCDC work with a CPS contract in a mandated setting.
Oh, I see.
Working under it was a means to an end though, but I did get a lot of experience, in working with trauma, but that wasn't what we were trying to treat. We were just trying to mostly focusing on the addiction counseling as I was just an LCDC there. And then I did the training, as I was approaching kind of full licensure. I was still an associate, the EMDR training, and that was like almost now coming up on a couple years ago, year and a half ago, I would say now. I think I've done like approaching like over like 30 protocols, a couple dozen different clients, from adolescents, as young as 13 to the emerging adulthood, to middle age, to various races, different LGBTQ plus population as well. And it's integrated very seamlessly, honestly, into my theoretical orientation.
Okay, so when you got done with the training, you started using EMDR pretty much as part of what you were doing?
Yes, I got done with the training. I started getting more clients and just kind of going for it. I was pretty insecure at first about it, more so due to my visual impairment. Not sure if you remember, but I do have a legal blindness. I'm visually impaired. And that was something that I was like concerned and curious about. What is this going to look like? How is this going to work for me? Obviously, I wasn't that confident at first, which is natural. It's a new thing. Just went for it. Just started attempting, to apply it in sessions, following the maintaining fidelity to the model. Started to gaining more confidence because I was seeing it work. From telehealth, doing the eye movements, just using my fingers. The only time I use the bilateral stimulation on telehealth is really just for the auditory. I don't use the ball. I just put my fingers in front of the screen, and that's works well, for clients that are receptive to that eye movement. Got a light bar though about like 7 months ago or so here in the practice, and been using that as well. Even auditory and tapping at the same time for a couple of my clients, which they've been very receptive to it as well in that sense. Yes, I've gained a lot more. Like I was saying, just more like very more trauma informed, on various things, finding like the roots, working through the roots of where all this stems from.
Okay, so that's been one of the things that helped is EMDR and the trainings. They talk about trauma basically in the AIP model, but basically how early life experiences create difficulties later in life. And that gives you a lens which to look at people and to understand.
Yes. So like from this place of the past influences the present and like presently also we're creating our new past, which then can influence our future. Yeah, it's very interesting when I'm able to even find these roots of where all this hypervigilance stems from. Where are these trust issues? Where is this stemming from? Even from like whether it's parental attachments, whether it's toxic relationships. It's very powerful. The change that I feel very privileged to be doing this type of bottom up therapy processing that I'm doing now, and it's sparked a very a big interest in just wanting to learn more.
Well, are there any other modalities you're working on now in terms of like parts work?
A little bit of the not too much of the parts work. I guess it's more so like inner child in that sense. If I do bring that up, working from that part, like from like this older, wiser part, adult version of us, as we're kind of working with that wounded inner child in that sense.
Yeah.
It's allowed me to, I think, but the main modalities that I do use is like I was saying, like acceptance and commitment therapy, motivational interviewing. I'm very person-centered, but I have a lot. I do like how EMDR has allowed me to be more direct with clients in sessions. It's a very directive approach, obviously. I just recently did a training on the new like neurological findings of how, like how all this like transformational change is happening from like the activation when clients kind of get activated when we're doing the protocol, and then they get matched with this disconfirming information, which kind of creates this like unlearning process. And so that just finding real interest in like the latest research that learning about it, and from that sense. But I do want to still wanted to kind of grasp more and learn more about how to use it more, and specifically also from just kind of gaining more like knowledge and tools for using it with like addiction, you know, in that sense.
What was the training you took?
It was with this Beyond Healing, when EMDR doesn't work, and they kind of talking about how it's at times maybe clients aren't like totally activated, and just talking about just kind of ways to different interweaves to work through that. Just kind of giving more information on like what happens, like how does this transformational change actually happen in the brain. And it was a couple hours training. It was EMDRA certified, obviously approved, and
okay.
I took that like a month ago.
Okay, so one thing you found is EMDR really fits your I guess view on how to do therapy, or whatever you do. EMDR didn't really change what you do so much as it fit into what you're doing.
Absolutely. It's fit pretty seamlessly. And even in these top down, you know, sessions, you know, when I'm like, when we're doing resourcing, you know, well, obviously that's about to bottom up when we're bringing in those resources, but even just when we're doing just the top down, like processing things from like a cognitive level, it's very seamless. You know, what I fit in, even in like the actual process, and like finding and building like this disconfirming information, like as I'm forming this therapeutic alliance, we're using this as resources. And and also use a lot of sometimes the dialectics of DBT. I forgot to mention that as well.
Right.
And I've even resourced some of the DBT skills into the resource development and installation, as far as like a client had success using the STOP skill, which is a distress tolerance skill, with the challenge of like family conflict. And she found success in it. And okay, let's install that as a resource even more, to kind of make that even more profound, help you get even more connected with that from a bottom up sense. So that's also been pretty cool to also watch that like seamlessly fit into the different tools that I bring in that aren't just but that just fit in. They fit in. It's all integrative. It's all integrative.
So you're saying you can bring in bilateral stimulation with that? Is that what you're saying?
Yep. I've resourced that as like a mastery memory when they use the DBT STOP skill for distress tolerance. Now let's resource this as, you've already embodied this. You've already used this. Now let's resource this even more as a part of your resource team.
Okay.
From that sense, and also too, some of the ACT coping skills, grounding skills, like leaves on a stream. That's like a guided imagery. Sometimes clients do actually prefer to use that after like an incomplete protocol session, so that they go to that. Or like a dropping anchor, where that's another ACT skill that some clients prefer to use, that like grounding after incomplete session, where like noticing these thoughts, you know, that also fit in seamlessly into the language too of, you know, when we're doing the protocol of or resourcing of, notice that, you know, go with that, focus on that. So I would say it's definitely been a pretty cool experience to witness just the growth that it's allowed me as a clinician, and which in return has allowed me to better facilitate healing for my clients.
What would be a success story for you? What can you think of? One case that stands out in your mind?
Definitely, I got a few. I know a pretty unique one was a client that had a social phobia, as far as he was a detective and he was able to be independent in his role at work and do his job, you know, well, and had no issues of anxiety or social phobia there. But outside of work, extreme social phobia, where he couldn't go to HEB, the grocery store, at certain times, would have to plan his day, would never go. Everything had to be well calculated, well planned, would never go to the movies anymore just because of that aspect. Had all these values of wanting more connection and like experience and traveling, but his anxiety, his social phobia would always keep him stuck. He was very, very much a hermit in his life, outside of work, pretty polarizing on how like he could be more independent and could be more social and could be social at work in his role as a detective. But when it comes to like, he would never just spontaneously go to a store, that was just not something he learned that he couldn't do from his past experiences of, he was at years ago, he was like at a movie theater by himself, and then a real adversive experience of kids were around him and they got up and we're laughing at him and almost pointing at him, and he internalized that so deeply, and it's just shaped how he continued to move. And then he had like even tracing back another route of this big panic attack that he had in middle school. So we were identifying these worst experiences that had shaped his worldview, and his sense of self. And even doing the resourcing of when we did a safe calm place, just the relief and regulation, because I vividly remember what his was too, because he was like, the safe calm place can be a real place or it can be an imagined place. And he loved to garden. He was a gardener, and his safe calm place was his ideal garden, though, where it was like rich fruits, vibrant colors, flowers. And even just resourcing that, when I started to see him, that safe, he felt so like regulated. I asked him, when was the last time he even felt this level of calmness? And he could not remember. He felt so good that he actually told me like the next session after that, I just went to academy and started to walk around. And that was actually one of the worst experiences that he had, was at academy too. And he just started to walk around, though. He just felt so good. He wanted to test it out, and we did. And later that ended up being like something that we installed in his resource development installation as a resource of that mastery memory, when he was able to embody his desired behavior of being more social, courageous, and open. And did a couple other resourcing the container and whatnot, and then ultimately got to the protocol of processing some of these big worst experience moments from his past. And it was transformational change, to the point where I'm no longer seeing him anymore, which is good. But even last year, where he went to New Mexico and went on his own camping trip by himself, started being more spontaneous, started being more open, more willing, and even processed the worst experiences of the grief of his mother as well. So that's one of many, but that one sticks out as the social phobia. First time I had dealt with that, and I was still new in it. And I was like, but I elevated the approach, and I obviously was able to help my client.
So you did the
live
EMDR,
a more full life.
You did the EMDR processing on the early, like the memory of being in the movie theater.
Yep.
Is that right?
And this one of
a protocol basically on those early memories.
Yep. Yes, sir. Yes,
and that
sir.
made it so he could function more effectively in his life currently. Is that right?
Very correct. Very correct. And yeah, you just saw the light, like just the lightness, just the more like confidence, just installing that positive cognition too. Felt more capable, more able. And that's what I like about it. The EMDR is that it's not symptom reduction. It's transformational change, the process of reprocessing.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I hadn't thought of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That early work with is it LCDC, that's really working with what's currently going on and trying to function better in the moment without clearing up any of the past feeding into it. Is that right?
Definitely. But I would say, it is very symptom reduction, and with the LCDC work, just, grounding, we can teach self-regulation, of course, but doesn't really get to the root of the issue. I just feel like really privileged, to kind of witness that change in my clients. But very grateful, very grateful.
Okay. Any other success stories you could share? I mean, it's fine. Anything else you'd like to
yes,
share?
too. Yeah, I've had a client. Yes, sir. I've had a client, too. It was an adolescent. Started seeing him as a freshman towards the end of that freshman year, and some depression and anxiety coming in with, and past substance abuse history. When I had saw him, though, he had already made the changes of and he had some self-harm, but he had already made the changes of stopping the substance abuse and abstaining from that in the self-harm for the most part. So he already kind of made some changes in that area. For a while, we were doing talk therapy, though, and just that's what we were doing for a while. And the ACT skills and therapy and the dialectics of DBT, CBT and whatnot. And it was providing him relief. He was progressing. I'd been seeing him for a while, and he was progressing. He was doing well, and he was getting into like boxing and mixed martial arts and maintaining that routine and whatnot. Gaining some self-worth, improving his boundary setting and whatnot. It was like, I think real early this year, though, he was like, I still have this sadness, like that would kind of come and go, but like but more so even deeper of like this negative self-identity, this negative belief of, I'm unworthy, I'm inadequate or whatever it was. And it's somewhere in that realm, and there was still a lot of social anxiety, a lot of social anxiety to a certain extent, even though he was doing all these social things, but just this insecurity and the low self-worth that was still there. And he opened up, about that, and obviously encouraging feedback, with my clients, collaborative experience. I was like, well, I think maybe we should try this EMDR therapy, because it does appear like there's a lot of things from your past that are still like resurfacing, that still show up, from even this clusters of feeling so alone, and this past, like the cluster of these toxic relationships that he was once in. I remember even processing it was like this cluster of this loneliness that he had felt in childhood, and we had processed that in a session, and I saw the light turning on him, and he was working through this, and we installed the positive cognition, of course. And I found so much relief, that day. And then he came back next week, and he was like, I was at like at lunch with my dad and like somebody that like I was in his like boxing gym. But there was like a moment where I think he like got frazzled, or there was like a trigger that came up, and then he like almost like froze up and got more like insecure and less social in that moment. And I was like, this is exactly why we do the 3-prong approach, right? Is processing things from the past, present, and future. So that was kind of where we installed that future template, and gave him more confidence, felt more prepared, and always framing of we have to do this future template to protect your growth, your healing, your worth. And we did that, and it just further reconsolidated that reprocessing of that memory. Didn't see him for too many sessions after that. It might have been like a 5 or a handful, soon after, and then graduated, with from therapy, and that was a real cool moment to see and witness that change, and how efficient it was to process these past disturbing memories that were still plaguing him and disturbing him, troubling him.
So you're saying by processing the early troubling memory, the current depression that he was feeling that would surface now and then was alleviated. Is that?
Yes, substantially. And even maybe some moments came up of whatever it would be, frustration, stress, but he had this confidence of he could manage it and handle it, and it's not over identify with it, and it's as he is the, his power that he found, the awareness of who he actually truly was, the true nature of who he was. As we installed this more empowering, positive self-identity through the protocol, and then also through the future template. And I also feel like all that time that I was working with him, we were compiling disconfirming information too. And then when we got to that place, he was very receptive to the eye movements.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's really good. I think that's helpful to hear. You got anything else you'd like to share about how when you moved EMDR into your practice, how it changed it?
Just that I've gotten a lot of clients, people seeking it out. I've just gotten more involved with the community of even the Facebook group that y'all have, the CompassionWorks. That's a really cool resource. Just colleagues that are also kind of newly EMDR trained, and it's really just sparked a greater interest to want to learn, be more trauma informed, and honestly asking myself why this isn't in the curriculum of grad school of the counseling. Like I feel like there should be a course on just at least being more trauma informed. I didn't hear anything about EMDR in grad school. So it was something that was just totally new to me, but I was very intrigued from it from the beginning, and still am. I'm constant. I got different podcasts that I listen to, and different books sometimes that I look into as well. So just still learning, still constantly learning about it. And it's been a great investment. It was actually a scholarship I got, but I'm glad I applied for it. And it's done wonders for myself and my clients.
And how can people find you? Are you on LinkedIn?
I am on LinkedIn. I also have a Facebook page, Paul Martinez, LPC, LCDC, EMDR trained. I'm in Corpus Christi, Texas.
Corpus Christi, right.
I'm also on there. Also, Psychology Today profile. I got a video on there. Y'all can hear me talk to on there. So that's got a Facebook professional page, Psychology Today. Yes, I love what I do. I love what I do. It's very rewarding. Yes, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, you're welcome, and we'll give you a link to this too when we get it. Whatever we do with it, we'll make sure you can get access to it and use it for your own.
Sounds great.
And that's the idea, right?
Yes, sir. I will do. I appreciate you, Jordan. It's been good seeing you.
Good. Yeah, good to see you. I do remember you from the trainings. You did well. And
it's been great. I feel like I'm growing, and that's definitely a value I have. I just want to continue to grow, and that's what it's allowed me to continue to do.
Well, and also now you have an impairment of seeing, right?
Yes,
but you can use the light bar. I guess you can see well enough to position it and see when it's going and all that. How does that work?
Yep. I can use the light bar. It doesn't really get affected, during the daytime or nighttime. It's been stable for 10 plus years, so I'm pretty adapted to it. But I let all my clients know, just because it's not always the most obvious thing, but just to prevent any awkward moments if I gaze off, or if I look at something more closely, which I do, or if my phone talks, because I do have that. But when I'm doing telehealth or in person, a lot of times I'm just using my fingers, and unless they're not receptive to it, then I'll bring in the auditory or the tapping. And the light bar has been pretty cool though to watch that.
But you do play out well enough to know how to position it, and if people are looking at it.
Yes, sir.
Because I have a colleague who's completely blind, but she does EMDR, but she has to use the tappers because she can't see the position and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that would be more challenging. I would bet for sure. You can find a way though. But thankfully, I it's been stable, my eyesight, so I am able to see it well enough to position the light bar well enough to, as y'all kind of taught us, to sit diagonally like ships passing when we're doing the face-to-face like eye movements.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that just go for it now. I just go for it. I'm a lot more confident in it.
You're confident. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, good enough. Well, thanks for checking in.
Yes, sir. It's good seeing you, Jordan.
Good to see
you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
You have a good one.
Okay, you too.
Bye-bye.